Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. I am Dorm. This is Dorm Shoes. Welcome back to DormFilm, where we're talking about movies. Today, we're going to be talking about A Night at the Opera. This movie's from 1935, and boy, does it show it. So I literally just watched this. I finished watching it as I was eating dinner and came in here to record this immediately after. I have a bit of mixed feelings on this one. There's a lot to like about it. There's also a lot for me personally that just I lost the plot a little bit. So this movie is a Marx Brothers festival, I guess, because Groucho, Chico, and Harpo are all in this. I'm a big fan of Groucho Marx. I was when I was like a teenager anyway, just like reading his quotes and stuff. I don't know that I've ever watched a full Groucho Marx like film. I've definitely watched clips and stuff on YouTube, but don't know that I've ever actually sat down to watch a full Groucho Marx film. This film also is on the AFI Top 100 list that we were discussing last time with The Apartment. This is number 85 on that list. And to say that it's one of the 100 greatest films of all time, for me personally, I don't really get it. I really love Groucho Marx, and I think he is at his most brilliant when it's very dialogue heavy. One of the knocks on this film for me is how little dialogue there is. There are large sort of swaths of movie that are just either songs, which to me weren't very entertaining, or just like musical breaks, or sort of more like slapstick physical comedy. That stuff is great, and I don't hate those kind of things, but when I came into it expecting like a big Groucho Marx movie, and it starts out so great with just Groucho Marx just doing a lot of dialogue in the first probably 10-15 minutes, I was very optimistic. I think as the movie goes along, it gets worse and worse for me. By the end, I kept checking to see how much time was left. And yeah, which I don't like, because I like this sort of older style of movie. I like the silliness and the fact that the movie can just exist to be a sort of vehicle for fun little one-liners and zings and zangs. One of my biggest problems with the movie, though, is that it really doesn't feel like a film rather than a bunch of little skits sort of stitched together. And I know that that's probably indicative of the Marx style, right? Like a lot of those movies, I'm assuming the plot just exists for one-liners, and that's fine. I don't mind that at all. But the plot here is very thin. There is a love story going on with two of the characters that I was not invested in at all. And that's sort of the through line throughout the movie, is just that relationship, that love story. And it just wasn't enough to draw me in. I'm going to contrast this movie with something, with a movie that I really like from the same era, Bringing Up Baby from 1938. I also just watched this year for the first time, and that movie does a much better job, in my opinion, having a likable love story, having a plot that, yes, is funny, and facilitates really good little scenes of humor, but is also an interesting plot, and also just is a better through line, even if that movie too kind of loses it a little bit by the end. Not nearly as much as this movie does. I am pretty easy to get on board. I will give most movies a thumbs up. And I didn't hate this movie. It was easily watchable. There were some lines rather that I was laugh out loud laughing at from Groucho, and I just wanted more of that. I wanted more of that zany, snappy sort of dialogue that he's known for, and we got a couple of those. There's a scene where he's alone in a room at a table, and three other guys have just kind of left to go hide in the closet as a cop comes and investigates the room, and the cop's like, "Oh, I see you have a table set for 4, and Groucho goes, "Oh, that's nothing. I have my alarm set for 8. A little stuff like that I absolutely love. There's two of the three sort of stowaway characters, one of which is the love story guy, the other two are Chico and Harpo, are tucked away in his trunk, in Groucho's trunk. He opens the trunk to see two of them, and he's like, "Where are my other clothes?" And they say they sold them or whatever. And he's like, "Well, that's okay. I keep a shirt tucked away in this drawer." And he opens the drawer, and I think it's Harpo. It's either Chico or Harpo. He's asleep snoring, and Groucho goes, "Well, that's not my shirt. My shirt doesn't snore." I love lines like that. I love little dialogue moments like that, and I just wanted more of that from this movie. I think this movie is at its best when Groucho is talking. I don't really love Chico and Harpo from this film. Their best scene to me is sort of the instrumental back and forth. So throughout the course of the movie, there are these song breaks that, while I get is just like old Hollywood, right? Like a lot of old movies are pseudo musicals, even if they're not actual musicals. And I get it, especially with a movie called A Night at the Opera, that you have to have some songs. The songs suck. I will not find myself singing any of these songs tomorrow. They're just not good. And maybe that's because they're an opera song from the 30s, right? Like, that is pretty far away, pretty detached from what we're used to with music. But even like going back and watching other musicals from that era and stuff, they're far catchier songs than this sort of kind of style going on. And it's just, to me, it's not captivating. To me, that was when I was checking my phone and not really paying attention to the movie. I think that AFI, at least with my experience so far, I've seen about 25 of the movies of the top 100, a lot of which are from this sort of golden era. I think we can give those movies a little too much credit. Like, yes, I know that they are trend-setting. Yes, I know without them we wouldn't have a lot of the sort of snappy dialogue comedies later on. I just don't think this is the finest example of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing Duck Soup, which I think is just Groucho as opposed to the entire Marx family. I think there can be too much Marx in a movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing Duck Soup and seeing how that contrasts with this. For me personally, I was very unimpressed with this movie. Really, I liked the first half a lot more than the second. The second is really when they start hammering in the sort of the music and the more physical scenes. Oh, I was gonna say, so there's a scene where they're singing on a boat, and then Chico and Harpo kind of go back and forth on the piano and harp, and it's a fun scene. Especially whichever one. I think it's Harpo. Groucho's the easy one because he has a mustache. The other two I get confused. Harpo does a really fun piano scene where he's sort of entertaining the kids on the ship and like does a lot of little slapstick stuff, like closes the lid of the piano on his hand, and then he pretends like his hand is limp, and then he can only get it when he rocks it back forward, and then it goes limp again. Like it's a really fun little scene. That scene and a couple other scenes in this movie feel a little masturbatory from the Marx. Like, hey, we can do this thing really well. We can do piano really well, or we can play harp really well, or whatever. So we have to have that scene in the movie. Like, plot-wise, it made no sense why these random two stowaways are just having an instrument battle for 15 minutes. And I get that it's like an iconic scene and stuff, but at the same time, why? Like, why does it need to be in the movie? Ultimately, I do enjoy films of this ilk. I really do like sort of old Hollywood, and I like Groucho Marx, and I like some of the lines in it. Some of the dialogue was really, really funny. At the same time, as a movie, the plot is almost non-existent. And if the one-liners aren't there to carry the plot, then the movie falls apart. And a lot of the movie just isn't dialogue. It's physical comedy that, again, I don't hate, but it just doesn't play super well 80 years removed from it, right? With that being said, I'm giving Night at the Opera 2.5 stars. To me, 3 stars is like an average good recommend movie. A Night at the Opera for me falls a little bit short of that. I just think it's okay, and I think 2.5 stars is about okay. So I'm giving it 2.5 stars. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to subscribe and like the video if you did enjoy it. If you want to join the Patreon, that basically makes this series and all other YouTube series possible. Patreon.com/DormStreams. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/DormStreams. Stream multiple times a week at night on Eastern time. So go check it out over there. Go hang out, talk about movies, talk about games, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.